John Sidney McCain III, Vietnam War veteran and United States Senator from Arizona. John McCain was born in Panama in 1936 to a prominent American Navy family. By 1958, he had graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, becoming a naval aviator. Serving in the United States Navy for over 20 years and with 5.5 years as a POW, McCain retired in 1981. Shortly after, he turned to a career in politics. In 1982, McCain won a seat in the United States House of Representatives. By 1987, he began his career in the U.S. Senate. Now, having served in politics for over 30 years, let's examine McCain's views and voting record pertaining to preemptive war, his involvement with foreign nations, his connection with the Council on Foreign Relations, as well as his views on free trade and big government. Considering McCain's military background, let's start with his view on preemptive war. Early in his political career, he held the traditional conservative position of a non-interventionist. However, by the late 90s, his stance changed. Beginning in 1999, McCain supported the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. In 2001, McCain supported war with Afghanistan. In 2002, he supported the war with Iraq. Later, in 2003, he urged for military intervention in North Korea. Since 2011, the following examples show McCain's continued support for U.S. military intervention.
People are dying on the ground in Libya, and they wouldn't have to if we were using all of U.S. air power and the abilities and the unique capabilities that the United States military has. And unfortunately, we are not.
McCain later continued,
"This thing could have been over a long time ago if we had brought the full weight of American air power to bear on him, and it's unfortunate."
I thank the President for acknowledging that the Syrians are using chemical weapons and massacring their own people, and I applaud his decision to provide additional weapons. I do not, every ounce, every bone in my body knows that simply providing weapons will not change the battlefield equation, and we must change the battlefield equation.
Clearly, McCain's traditional conservative views on preemptive war have changed to a more neoconservative interventionist viewpoint. This same perspective can be seen when looking at McCain's viewpoint regarding America's involvement with foreign nations. He openly promotes the economic and political integration of nations. A good example was his speech given at the Hoover Institution in 2007.
We should go further. We should go further and start bringing democratic peoples and nations from around the world into one common organization, a worldwide League of Democracies, a League of Democracies. The new League of Democracies would form the core of an international order of peace based on freedom. It could act where the UN fails to act.
McCain's support for this League of Democracies shows that he supports the creation of yet another international organization, an entangling alliance similar to the United Nations. If history repeats itself, this league, as he puts it, would also use America's taxpayer money, along with its military, to be, in essence, the policeman of the world. If McCain is a true conservative, how can he support ideas such as these? What happened to the traditional conservative values McCain supposedly started out with? During McCain's 2008 presidential campaign, he stated that his principles and values have not changed. However, he continued to say that his position has changed on specific issues because of a change in circumstances. A change in circumstances? What does he mean by that? Perhaps he is referring to his connection with the Council on Foreign Relations, which he joined in 1997. The CFR is recognized as being the most influential foreign policy think tank in the world. In other words, the CFR's influence plays an essential role in many areas that have lasting effects worldwide. To better explain the importance of McCain's CFR connection and its influence, let's look at McCain's involvement with the Egyptian crisis. Back in 2011, Egypt was experiencing civil unrest. After days of protest, President Mubarak was forced to resign. Although the protests seemed spontaneous at the time, it was really quite the opposite. Here are some points many may not realize. First, the mass protests were not spontaneous. They were actually organized by the Muslim Brotherhood. This religious political organization was the party that replaced Mubarak. Second, there were 3 American organizations involved in the overthrow. Agents of these 3 organizations were arrested, later tried, and then found guilty for their involvement in the demonstrations that forced Mubarak to eventually step down. And finally, all 3 American organizations involved were led by CFR members. One organization in particular was the International Republican Institute, chaired by CFR member John McCain. Since 2011, the turmoil in Egypt has only continued. This includes the election of President Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood, followed by dissatisfied citizens speaking out about their government, which led to demonstrations and protests. And finally, the military took over and removed Morsi. Shortly following the 2013 military coup, Senator John McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham traveled to Egypt. While there, they urged for Egypt to restore democracy. In other words, they were urging for Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood to be put back into power. The word democracy is becoming all too common. Although it may sound positive, it is not. The CFR's promotion of democracy is generally done by force or under false pretense. This allows the CFR to move America towards socialism at home while claiming they are establishing freedom abroad. This is merely one step toward forming their New World Order. These false pretenses and foreign activities are leading to the erosion of our national sovereignty. Neoconservatives are also using false pretenses to promote things like free trade. When viewing free trade agreements, generally they are 20% trade issues, with the rest being policies that also erode our Constitution and American independence. McCain has helped move the neoconservative movement forward with his promotion of free trade. Looking at McCain's history, we see that in the early 90s, he was known as a faithful supporter of free trade. When speaking on the floor of the United States Senate in 1993, McCain stated, "I commend President Clinton for his energetic advocacy of NAFTA over the last 2 months. Every member of Congress should have had the courage and wisdom to vote for NAFTA for no other reason than it is so clearly in the interests of our nation. As a Republican, I am happy to proclaim my support for NAFTA. I am proud of my support for NAFTA." McCain consistently promoted NAFTA, even though evidence revealed America was suffering job loss and trade deficits. In 2007, he said, "I know NAFTA was a good idea. It created millions of jobs, and it has helped the economies of all 3 of these nations. All you have to do is go to Detroit and see the thousands of trucks lined up every day, or go to our southern border. Free trade is something that I think is vital to the future of America." Since Senator McCain clearly favors a neoconservative perspective on free trade, let's see if his views on big government are any different. In 2001, McCain co-sponsored the Aviation and Transportation Security Act that federalized airport security. Also in 2001, he voted in favor of creating the massively expensive Department of Homeland Security, which continues to violate the rights of millions of Americans daily. In 2006 and 2011, he voted to extend the unconstitutional roving wiretaps of the Patriot Act. Our federal government continues to grow when politicians such as McCain vote for Constitution-infringing bills such as these. When examining McCain's long political career, you see that he promotes himself as a conservative, but then turns and abandons his duties to uphold the United States Constitution. It is our job as Americans to know the viewpoints of our elected officials, who they're working with, and most importantly, how they vote. We as Americans need to hold our politicians accountable. This means we need to educate ourselves. This will take some effort on your part. However, it is easier today than ever before. Although there are many tools, the New American Magazine's The Freedom Index is a leader in providing you with up-to-date information. It gives you the ability to track your congressman's voting record along with the reasons as to why their votes were for or against the Constitution. As we become educated, we need to share that education with others. This means contacting the opinion molders in your community and informing them of the dangers of those elected officials who do not obey the Constitution. Once informed, great changes will take place. We as Americans can hold our politicians accountable. Together, let's raise awareness and make a difference.